Hello and welcome to today's concise executive briefing, insurance marketing tips from a twice-listed Inc. 500 CEO, brought to you by StartUpSelling. A little bit about the speaker today. Alan Bloom is the founder and CEO of StartUpSelling. He's the author of 2 books, Your Virtual Success and Sell More and Work Less. As we mentioned, a twice-listed Inc. 500 CEO, creator of the Prospect Scorecard, author of over 150 agency marketing articles, and over a decade of insurance marketing experience. With that, Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank everyone for joining us today. We appreciate that. This is going to be a very concise overview of the tips that helped me dramatically increase revenues to the point where we were able to get on the Inc. 500 list 2 years in a row. This is back when there was no Inc. 5000 list. That's a much more recent innovation. So back at that time, you had a very stellar growth to get on that list and to do it twice. There was a modest number of companies that did it twice and only a few companies that have ever done it 3 times. And the growth, by the way, we're talking in the hundreds or 1,000% percentile of growth to make it on that list. Now, the building blocks that I had in place are no different then than they are today. And we speak to many insurance organizations, agencies, brokers, wholesalers, MGAs, etc. And we're constantly surprised that they have not put these key components into place. And if you do, the likelihood of success, the foundation that's created, and the ability to build upon that becomes significant. So let's take them one by one, very fast. Some might seem obvious, yet if I ask 10 people, 9 will say we haven't done it yet. The first is, let's say that you're a broker in California and you're selling to the entire state and you sell commercial insurance. You focus on manufacturing, distribution, high tech, and perhaps some services industries. The first thing I'm going to ask you if you call me is, do you have a comprehensive prospect list of all of California with the titles of the people that you want to sell to, which might be depending upon the size of that target? And you'll see that my image here has different rings, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Depending upon the size, you have the CEO, general manager, owner, president, CFO, CTO, depending upon what you're selling, risk manager, and how many others might you have? Well, if you're selling benefits, you might also have director of benefits, HR manager, VP of HR, and in larger organizations, things like CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer. So you have to determine, number one, who am I selling to? Get every possible contact in your specific profile. Perhaps that's revenues of 5 million to 50 million. Some people might call that middle market, or 10 million to 50 million. In California, or perhaps Southern California, or perhaps New England, wherever you're marketing to, in the targeted industries, or if you're a horizontal agency, all the industries. And here's the big caveat but you must have their email addresses, because you want to start not only a conversation via phone, you want to start a digital conversation. And one of the great ways to do that is by having a high quality list that you then turn into an opt-in list. So it all begins with a prospect list. Many companies fail at putting this together. It's critical, and I'm amazed today how many organizations I talk to that have not done that first step. Costs for email lists, by the way, these days, and there's a very important nuance in building a list. If you're procuring a list, you must get people to opt into that list. There's a lot of nuance and technique with that. You would want to hire a proficient person on your staff or outsource it to a proficient insurance marketing agency. Well, you can expect to pay 40 cents to over $1, depending upon the volume and who you're dealing with. And make sure it's a quality organization. If you find a list of distributors and you can buy 100,000 distributors and it costs you a penny an email, you know that's going to be a problem list. So once we've created our list, one of the best ways to then begin that digital conversation is with educational material revolving around an email marketing campaign, an insurance email marketing campaign. Very important for you, when you do this, you do not say, buy my insurance, it's cheaper. Have us quote on it, you'll be happy. We are experts. We know more than anybody else. You want to have educational material. If you have asked people, will you opt in for my educational material, which we call vetting the list, and follow CAN-SPAM regulations very closely, and follow opt-out and be extremely careful with the way that you handle your email campaign, because you have both CAN-SPAM and opt-in to consider, you can begin that digital conversation, and it can be very powerful for you. Well, ultimately, with your prospect list, your comprehensive prospect list in place, and email marketing campaigns that are ongoing, probably 2 a month, if that's the maximum that we recommend, is 2 a month, and that they be consistent and educational. Well, then the goal is appointments. And how do you get those appointments? Well, there will be people asking for appointments, but let's face facts. If you're selling trucking insurance to small fleets that are between 10 and 100 power units, people are not going to be begging you via email, please contact me about a quoting. But they will know you, and they'll be ready to begin engaging in the conversation. And with email campaigns, you'll know who's clicked through and expressed interest in the educational content you provided. Perhaps it will be a webinar like this. Perhaps it will be white paper or other digital collateral, a blog entry, CSA regulations, updates, PPACA updates, and so on. So you have 2 choices at that point. You either have your own producers, salespeople on staff, who are going to then act upon these click-throughs and opens that you glean from your campaigns, or you're going to have to outsource that, or you're going to do it yourself if you're a small shop. So one way or another, you want to follow up on the interest and have both a digital and a verbal dialogue to basically to have establish a strong relationship that you can then carry to the next level and close. People do not buy insurance, in my opinion, for 50 people organizations or 20 people organizations or health policies with 50 participating employees. They don't buy that online or just responding to an email. They want to have a comfort level. They want to establish a rapport. And that's what the appointment setting calls are about, to professionally create that appointment. Now, the quantity and the quality will vary dramatically with the approach. As you're getting to be better known, people will be more interested in talking to you. You'll have that name recognition as a broker or an agent. Very important. And as you're talking with them, they'll be more interested in setting up an appointment or taking your call or recognizing that. And they'll be much more likely to show up for the appointment if it's a conference call. And some appointments are actually on site. So it's all up to you. It's up to the way you want to follow up on these appointments. It's up to leveraging the digital marketing that you're doing in the prior slide. And of course, it's fishing in the right pond, which gets back to that prospect list. So the appointments are key. We say, depending upon the industry, you can have 2 appointments a week. You can have 4 appointments a week. It depends a lot on the size, the quality. For some of our trucking insurance clients, we get 5 to 10 appointments per week. So it all depends upon the type of insurance that you're providing. Now, moving forward, we go to lead handling. And that's crucially important, and almost everyone we know falls down on lead handling. Lead handling is not an option that you'll get to. It's not something that's a good to have. It's not something that's a nice to have. It's an absolute. What do you do? How do you handle it when a lead comes in? So people will respond to the emailings. The appointments will be set up if you're outsourcing it or if you're doing it internally. How do you now engage with that prospect in a professional way that's going to have the highest likelihood of a close? Lead handling is an art, but it's more of a science. You should have a concrete, coherent, written process. It should be written down, not just verbally cued, about how you handle a lead. A lead comes in from an email. It goes to The producer, based upon territory, he or she will respond within the same day, within or next morning at the latest, within 8 hours to this lead. Will respond by sending an Outlook invitation. If the appointment is more than a week away, there'll be an interim email sent. If the appointment is the next day, we'll send an email that morning reminding them of the appointment, and so on. How will you handle that? What's the best way to proceed? How do you maximize the stickiness of the appointment and the likelihood of the efficacy of closing that appointment? Now, those things might seem very basic. That means everybody on the call today has already done them. Yet, in all likelihood, the majority of you are missing one or more of those critical components. If you put those things in place, you prepare to grow that top line to the level that you want. Perhaps that's 10, 20, 30, or 40% per year. It all depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. So, have you done all those things? Do you have the processes in place? And then, are you measuring the results? So, once you've done those things, it's not enough to say, great, they're done. I'm all set. We have a saying at Startup Selling. We execute, measure, refine. Execute, measure, refine. So now that you've done that, you take your first batch of appointments over the first 60 days or 90 days, and you say, we've been averaging 3 appointments per week. How many of those have stuck? How many of those are going into the pipeline? What's the average size of the appointment? Is producer A doing better than producer B, C, and D? How many of those ultimately close? How long is the closing cycle for those? Are they the right size? Would we rather focus that bullseye in a different area? Because remember those concentric rings around that target bullseye? Well, you may want to only have 1 or 2 rings around that bullseye that you focus on. All of that comes with the measurement and the refining. So once you've done these things, make sure you have a methodology to measure. Sometimes those are called key performance indicators, KPIs, which means the data is really easy to assimilate and understand. This should be done on a very simple spreadsheet. Unless you have a Salesforce platform in place, it can't be done on a simple spreadsheet. The key is measuring it. And I know at Startup Selling, we know exactly how many appointments it takes to result in a close, our close ratio. We know how many proposals we get from our appointments. We know how many closes result from a proposal. We track it very closely. We know how many presentations we make per month. We know if it's gone up or down from the year prior. These are all easy things to do, but putting the process into place, that's the challenge for many organizations. So with that, John, is there anything else that we should cover today?
I think that was very thorough, and I appreciate you sharing those tips with us and our audience today. If anybody would like a complimentary insurance marketing review that is attended today or that watches this video on our website or YouTube channel, please contact me. My phone number and email address are on the screen. We would be happy to assist you in any way that we can. With that, today's web seminar is now ending. We hope you all have a great day.